Have you ever felt like you just don't quite fit in? Like your mind works differently? Like you feel things more deeply than the people around you? Like you see the world from an angle that most people simply don't understand? And maybe, for most of your life, you thought that was a problem. But what if it wasn't? What if the very things that make you feel different are actually the signs that you are built for something greater than average? Today, we're covering 6 uncommon signs that you are not wired like most people. And I want you to pay close attention, because by the end of this video, you might finally understand why you've never quite felt like you belong with the crowd, and why that is the greatest gift you've ever been given. Here's something fascinating. Almost every great mind in history, every inventor, every visionary, every person who changed the world, was considered strange, difficult, or misunderstood in their time. Einstein was called mentally slow as a child. Steve Jobs was seen as impossible to work with. Van Gogh died without recognition. The world didn't understand them, but history remembered them. So before we get into the signs, I want you to open your mind, because what society calls normal and what leads to an extraordinary life are almost never the same thing. Let's get into sign number 1. Sign number 1, you overthink and you can't turn your brain off. Most people see overthinking as a flaw, a weakness, something to fix. But here's the truth. People who think deeply are wired with what psychologists call high cognitive complexity. Their brains naturally process information at a deeper level than average. They don't just see what's in front of them, they see patterns, connections, consequences, and possibilities that most people completely miss. Yes, overthinking can become anxiety if it's unmanaged, but at its core, a mind that never stops thinking is a mind that never stops growing. The greatest problem solvers, writers, scientists, and leaders in history were all overthinkers. They just learned to channel it. If your mind races at night, if you replay conversations and analyze situations long after they're over, if you're always asking, but why? And what if? That's not a disorder. That's depth. And depth, in a shallow world, is rare. Sign number 2, you feel emotions more intensely than the people around you. A song hits you differently. A movie moves you to tears. When someone you care about is hurting, you feel it in your own chest. If this sounds like you, there's actually a scientific explanation. You may be what psychologist Elaine Aron calls a highly sensitive person, or HSP. Research suggests that roughly 15 to 20% of the population has a nervous system that processes emotional and sensory information far more deeply than average. Society often tells sensitive people to toughen up, to stop being so emotional, to grow a thicker skin. But here's what they don't tell you. High sensitivity is directly linked to higher levels of empathy, creativity, intuition, and emotional intelligence. And emotional intelligence, not IQ, is the #1 predictor of long-term success and meaningful relationships. The people who feel deeply are the ones who create deeply, who connect deeply, who lead deeply. Your sensitivity is not your weakness. It is your most powerful asset if you learn how to use it. Sign number 3, you actually enjoy being alone, and you need solitude to recharge. In a world that glorifies being social, always busy, always connected, choosing to be alone is seen as strange, even sad. But research in personality psychology tells a completely different story. People who enjoy solitude tend to score higher in creativity, self-awareness, and independent thinking. They're not antisocial, they're selectively social. They'd rather have one deep conversation than 10 shallow ones. Philosopher Blaise Pascal once said, "All of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone." Think about that. The ability to be comfortable in your own company, without distraction, without noise, without constant stimulation, is one of the rarest and most powerful skills a person can develop. If you recharge in silence, if crowds drain you but deep one-on-one conversations energize you, if you do your best thinking alone, you are not broken. You are built for depth. And in a world addicted to noise, your comfort with silence is a superpower. Sign number 4. You question things that most people just accept. Rules, systems, social norms, things everyone around you takes for granted. You look at them and ask, but does this actually make sense? Most people follow the path laid out for them without question. Go to school, get a job, buy a house, retire, repeat. But you've always felt that something about that script doesn't quite fit. And instead of just going along with it, you question it. This quality has a name in psychology. It's called openness to experience, and it's one of the 5 core personality traits studied by researchers worldwide. People who score high in this trait are naturally curious, intellectually adventurous, and resistant to blind conformity. Every revolution in human history, scientific, social, artistic, was started by someone who refused to accept because that's how it's always been done as an answer. Galileo questioned the church's model of the universe. Rosa Parks questioned the rules of a bus. Every entrepreneur who ever disrupted an industry questioned why things had to work the old way. If you've always been the person asking why, don't suppress it. That instinct is the seed of every breakthrough. Sign number 5. You care more about meaning than money, and no amount of comfort can silence that inner pull. This one is subtle, but it's one of the clearest signs that you are built differently. Most people make decisions based primarily on security, the safe job, the steady paycheck, the predictable life. And there's nothing wrong with that. But you've always felt something else pulling at you, a sense that you're here for something specific, that there's work you're supposed to do, a contribution you're supposed to make, and that no amount of comfort or money will fill that void if you're not living in alignment with it. Psychologist Viktor Frankl, who survived the Holocaust and went on to found an entire school of psychology, argued that the deepest human need is not pleasure or power, it is meaning. People who are driven by purpose are willing to sacrifice comfort for growth. They'll work on something they believe in for years without immediate reward. They're not chasing a paycheck, they're chasing a legacy. If you've ever walked away from something comfortable because it didn't feel meaningful, or if you lie awake thinking about what you're really supposed to be doing with your life, that restlessness is not a problem. That is your soul refusing to settle. Sign number 6. You hold yourself to a standard that most people around you don't understand. You replay mistakes long after everyone else has moved on. You're your own harshest critic. You know you're capable of more, and that knowledge drives you constantly, sometimes painfully. On the surface, this looks like a character flaw, perfectionism, self-criticism, never being satisfied. But underneath it is something remarkable, an internal standard of excellence that most people simply don't possess. Psychologists call this self-discrepancy theory, the gap between who you are right now and who you believe you're capable of becoming. People who feel this gap strongly are the ones most likely to actually close it, because they can never fully silence the voice that says, you can do better. The key, and this is important, is learning to channel that drive without letting it become self-destruction. The goal is not to be perfect. The goal is to be better than you were yesterday. Every elite athlete, every world-class artist, every category-defining entrepreneur feels this. They're never fully satisfied. But they've learned to use that dissatisfaction as rocket fuel, not as a reason to give up. If you hold yourself to a higher standard, if good enough has never quite felt good enough to you, that is not a burden. That is the mark of someone who is meant to do something extraordinary. Let's recap the 6 uncommon signs that you are built differently than 99% of people. You think too deeply, and your mind never fully shuts off. You feel everything more intensely than those around you. You are genuinely comfortable and even energized by solitude. You question things that most people blindly accept. You are driven by purpose and meaning over money and comfort. You hold yourself to a standard that most people don't understand. If even 3 or 4 of these resonated with you, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not broken. You are not too much. You are not weird. You are rare. And rare things are not meant to fit in. They are meant to stand out. The world doesn't need more people who follow the crowd. It needs people like you, who think differently, feel deeply, and refuse to settle for an ordinary life. So stop apologizing for how you're wired. Start leaning into it. If this video described you, share it with someone who needs to hear this today. It might change how they see themselves. Hit the like button if any of these signs hit home. Subscribe for a new mindset video every single week. And tell me in the comments, which sign resonated with you the most? I read every single one. See you in the next video. You are built for more than you know.